Well, hello there and welcome. Welcome to the first live edition of our recap of our Walt's Los Angeles tour, Michelle.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. Welcome.
Welcome to everybody who's joining us here on YouTube, on Instagram, on Facebook. Thank you for coming along. We're just going to have a little fun and talk about this amazing experience we just went on.
Yes, we are.
Yeah. You'll have to understand, Michelle, tonight, you have to bear with her. Along with our trip, she brought back a little bit of a souvenir with her, a little bit something that she didn't necessarily want to bring back with her, but there's a little bug that so she's playing hurt tonight. So please bear with her if she needs to break away to go into a coughing fit. Please understand.
Right. And I apologize in advance of my voice. And if I, you know, trying to blow my nose on the side or whatever, it's not COVID, but it is a bad head cold. Pretty sure I tore my eardrum.
She's just doing it.
I know.
This is what she does. This is what she does to get through this for you. Hi, Donna. Welcome to the show.
Hi,
Good
Donna.
to see you here. Hey, Caleb. Great to see you here.
Welcome.
Well, look, it's Marianne.
Hi, Marianne.
Marianne. Hey, Laquan is here.
Hey,
Good
Laquan.
to see you as
Thank you
well.
for joining us.
Marianne says feel better soon.
Thank you. Thank you. I've been kind of struggling with it almost a week now. So, I mean, it's getting better, seeing signs of it getting better. So I'm hopeful. But anyways.
Yeah, well, she's going to get better. Just a little bit tough of it, but we're going to get through this. By the way, there could be also a cameo at any time from Scott. You never know when he might make an appearance in here too. So you might get a special appearance from Scott. You never know. But let's get to this thing because I want to try and make this thing not go an hour and a half with you tonight.
No.
Please. But we have a lot to cover here. So let's go ahead and get started on this thing. I'm going to start at the beginning when we first heard about this thing. So this Walt Los Angeles tour, we found about when we were at Destination D23. And when Michael Varga was out there, he had Don Hahn, Disney legend Don Hahn, come to the stage and tell us all about, things that are coming up for D23, including they were going to be doing this Walt's Los Angeles tour, and several people that were in attendance at Destination D23 were going to get chosen to do this. And we thought, wow, that'd be amazing. It will not be us.
Right,
Michelle?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, they made it sound like it would just be, one or two maybe winners that could bring somebody along. And we didn't know if that meant that they were going to win that and go with other people who are paying or what. It really wasn't well defined.
Right. We had no idea. But we didn't really expect anything to come in. It was 4,000 people in attendance at this thing. The odds were not great. Then came a few days after we got home from that event, and we received an email saying, you're on the wait list for this event. We're like, yes, we and 4,000 other people are on the wait list for this thing. And then a couple days later, suddenly we got this email. I saw it first, I believe.
Yeah.
And it said you had been selected. It was like, wow, that's amazing. Yes, Michelle had been selected, of course, because she's the lucky one of the two of us, except for when it comes to getting a bug from this. She was the one, and it said, you have been selected. You have 48 hours to decide on whether you want to go on this thing. We laughed, we're like, okay, that's amazing that we got picked for this, but we can't do this, right? And then we started talking to each other, texting back and forth. We're like, well, we got to try, right? We had a whole bunch of hurdles to get through, and we were able to, the first hurdle, finding someone to watch Scott, his father, who lives down in Miami, finding flights, finding a place to stay. And me getting off
time
work.
Off.
Yeah,
yes.
It all worked out. Boom, 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 boom. It all worked out. And so the next thing you know, there we are last week on a flight on Wednesday out to Los Angeles to go and experience this amazing thing. Family put us up. Thank you to my family for putting us up, dealing with us for all this time. It was amazing.
Such great hospitality.
Yes, so much so. But we had a great time. Now, I'm going to go through this thing. Now, bear with me. I may not remember everything. Luckily, I have this handy book here that may remind me of a few things that they gave us for the Los Angeles tour. If I forget anything along the way, names of everything, places, there's a lot. There's a lot to go through here, right, Michelle?
Yeah. I mean, first of all, the email and it said, well, it gave us the 48-hour time frame, and it wasn't that long before we had to actually fly that we had to make these arrangements and decisions, but also that it was going to be a 12 plus hour tour. So we knew it was going to be a full day.
Yeah, and they ran down some of the things we were going to do, but not everything, and we found out more as we went along. So the day started, we headed out to the Walt Disney Studios in Burbank, the famous studios, out there. And we were told to go into the gate and we would meet at the Hyperion Bungalow. Yes. Yes. That should have signaled it was going to be a good day for us, right?
Yes.
So we met there, we checked in. We had a chance to have a little continental breakfast, coffee, tea, juice, some fruit, muffins, really nice parfait. Parfait was probably the hit.
Yeah.
But we got to enjoy kind of that. And we got to enjoy a little shopping over at the studio store. Maybe not as much shopping as we want. That's going to kind of be a trend throughout this, but we did get to go over to the studio store and do a little shopping there, right, Michelle?
Yeah, because that was already opened, and just as people were coming in, because you couldn't arrive too early. They only gave you like a half an hour time frame of which you could actually arrive there, and go through security and stuff. But so you did get a possible chance to go shopping if you arrived there kind of on the earlier end of their requirements.
Right. So we did go in there a little bit, but we didn't have a ton of time. So we went back, got in. There wasn't really anything that we particularly
Not
wanted.
that we had to have. There was a lot we wanted.
Yeah.
But
if we had more time, I'm sure we would have found something, because we do. We do. But we didn't do that. So interesting note on these two buildings, the Hyperion Bungalow and the Disney Studios store. Those are both buildings that were brought from Disney's last studios, the Hyperion Studios. Those were put on a truck and carried over, and now they still exist on the new, the newer Walt Disney Studios in Burbank. So
So that was interesting that the buildings themselves are part of the history, not just of the studios that is there at Burbank, but from the prior ones.
Right.
Yeah.
So once we did that, we went back. By the way, we got back and we noticed this bag here. Now, this bag is going to come into play. They told us right off the bat that this bag is basically going to be a trick or treat bag for us, that we're going to want to take it to a lot of different places along the way. We'll get to more of that a little later on. But yes, we did get this wonderful bag that actually sews up into it zips up into a very smaller bag.
Right. Folds it in, or it can be big. Yes.
Right. But we did get that. We met our two main guides. They were Drew and Christina, who you see here. I didn't get the best picture of them, unfortunately.
I know.
Sorry, guys.
Christina doesn't look very cheerful, but she was amazing.
Sorry. They were both amazing. They were both wonderful.
Yes.
All our guides. And there were a lot, and I'll go through a few of them here, but they were amazing. We met them. They told us, laid out basically a few things that we're going to do today. Told us that there are only 16 of us. Only 16 people on this tour. That means there were only 8 winners out of about 4,000 people. Maybe some other people won. Yes, Chris. Very flattering. I don't feel bad about that. It's the word. I took a couple pictures that they were in, but then I didn't get a lot of them. I have 100 pictures of other things. I didn't get many of them. So anyway, but they were wonderful. They were. They were spectacular. Please count the picture there.
Yeah, and they're typical tour guides for the Burbank studios. Right. If you go for the partial day Burbank studio tours through D23, you may see them.
And they were with us the entire day. The entire day they were with us for all the 12 hours of this day. And so they did tell us again, 16 people were on this tour. And this is part of the reason why we're doing this live, is because in case you have any questions, because this is going to be a tour, they told us, that is eventually going to be offered to the public at large, or at least D23 members, because this is put on by D23. D23 members. No pricing details yet, but we have some thoughts on that. But it is going to be offered, and they're still trying to figure out how often they're going to do it, whether it's like a couple times a year, whether it's once every quarter, something like that. It's going to be limited, that's for sure.
Right. And they wanted to have like a test run group to experience it. I think it helped them really firm up what timing it takes to get from place to place. And, being that they give you opportunity to ask questions. I think they really wanted to, scout out how would it work with a group and what size would work in terms of the logistics of transportation, etc. So
exactly. So, and they had done a dry run before just with D23 staff, D23 cast members. So they kind of had an idea, but this was the first time they had done it with general people at large. So our first thing, we split up into two groups. We went with Christina. The other group went with Drew. And we went two different directions. We went over to the ink and paint department. They gave us a little bit of a tour of the studios. We've done more extensive tours of the studios. And if you're just looking to do a tour of the studios, this is not the one for you. There is that exists out there. You can do that all the time, but you do get a portion of that, Michelle.
Yeah, and that's a wonderful tour. It's a little over 2 hours. Plus, you get some shopping involved in there as well. But yeah, I was thinking this first part would be kind of a replica of what we've gone to. And it really wasn't. There were some components that were the same, obviously, like going to Walt's office, but there was a lot more in it that we've never gotten to experience, which is, for example, ink and paint.
The ink and paint department. We've been by the ink and paint department, but we've never been in the ink and paint department before. And this was fantastic. One of my favorite parts of the entire tour, getting in there, we had actual inkers and painters describing the process for us, going through everything, all the paint that's there, discussing the process of, you see, I'm going to zoom in a little bit here in case for those of you on YouTube. On the bottom right here, and I'm sorry, I've forgotten their names and I feel badly about that, but I couldn't take notes on everything out there. But he was doing the inking, which is basically the outline of every character in there. And then on the top left, she did the painting, which basically fills in everything with the paint throughout. It was a fascinating process that we'd never seen done before, right, Michelle?
Right. And first of all, it was amazing that they still do that. Now they don't do it for animated features anymore, but they are doing it for, special celebrations, artwork, and things like that. So it was cool to see that that was a technique that was still in effect now as it was back in Walt's time. And a lot of like they said, you see all those in the background, the colors and everything. Those were the colors that the team that worked, with Walt were using.
Yeah,
and actually similar, not the exact formula, because they have found some formulas that work a little bit better, but very much the same technique in terms of how they mixed it up and stuff like that.
I believe they said they still had some paint going back to, I want to say the 60s.
Yeah.
Some of the paint is that old. And then sometimes they have to do some things to bring it back to life and whatever, but still pretty amazing. So we got to see them they were doing this inking and painting of a character, which happened to be Tinkerbell. And you can see it here for those of you on YouTube. You can see that the process on the bottom left there, you can see after they've done the inking and the painting, that is Tinkerbell that they were doing. And then we got to go into the airbrush room where they needed to add some extra flair to her. And what they want to do when they ink and paint is they want to make sure that there's no light going through. But when you do her wings, those are, you can kind of semi-see through them. So that was when they did that with the airbrush. And then we got to see how it looked after they had done the airbrushing. Fascinating stuff, Michelle.
Yeah. So what they were doing there is they were doing on the celluloid is just Tinkerbell. And then they would put that, you can kind of see it if you're watching on YouTube on the bottom right, they kind of put that in front of a piece of art that is the background. And Tinkerbell has to, be positioned on there, and everything has to look very much as though she is part of that drawing.
Yeah. Loved it so much.
Yeah.
We also got to see a process so this took, they were saying when they do the inking, which is the outline part of it again, that can take, he was saying it takes me about, to do a character like Tinkerbell for that, takes about 1.5 hours to 2 hours.
Yeah. So he's just taking the drawing that the artist did. Think of somebody drawing something, just the outline of a character on a piece of white paper, and then he's putting this clear celluloid over it and just tracing where the artist had already drawn.
Marianne has an interesting question here. She asked, are the colors exclusive to Disney, like Go Away Green at Walt Disney World? From what I understand, they create their own paints there.
Yeah.
So I can't say that they're exclusive colors to Disney, but they do create their own. So in a way they are exclusive,
Right.
and that they've made it themselves. It's
Yeah,
their own
it's a great
fate.
question. Yeah.
So yeah, for sure. So anyway, that process takes a while. They decided, yeah, go
I
ahead.
just want to say, I don't think the colors had names. I think it was more numbers
Yeah.
or codes.
And they had like some panels, which I didn't show the picture up here to kind
Yeah.
of show what panels you need, what kind of colors you need because Tinkerbell has certain colors that her flesh and her dress and her
Right.
hair need to be and so forth.
Yeah.
So they have panels to go through for that. So the process that they've came up with to kind of work through and make that inking portion much quicker was something that they went to Xerox. Was it UB? I think UB iWorks.
Yeah, I think so.
I think
Yeah.
it was UB iWorks. Went to Xerox and they came up with this Xerox camera. And we got to see that process too, where they basically were able to take the artist sketch, put it on this thing, take a picture of it essentially, and it would go on this metal-ish plate on the bottom. Let me see if I can zoom in here. You can see it on the left here, and it would go onto there, and then it would go through another process, and eventually you can see on the bottom right, it would show up. It looks like it's on paper. It's actually on a cellophane
Right.
sheet there. And it was a process that cut something that would take an hour and a half to about 4 minutes.
Right. And what was interesting is we had heard about this. In fact, in one of our previous episodes, we were talking about some of the history of Walt. And we heard about Xerox, and we thought it was just like, okay, like a copier machine, and you just put cells in there instead of paper. But no, this was, like Tom said, it first goes onto this metalish thing, and it's using magnetic things with this content that would put that image on there and then transpose it later. So much more complicated than when you think of just a copier machine.
Right. As a matter of fact, that metal piece, once they got done with it, they would put it through a machine and it would clear off. Like I compared it to like shaking an etch a sketch,
right?
Just getting rid of it. It was pretty incredible. I'm not going to take so long in every portion of this, but I was really geeked out about this because I thought it was fascinating. So I wanted to share that with you. So that was the ink and paint department. Really, really great portion of this tour that we had never experienced before. Next, we traded places with the other group and we went up to outside of Walt's office, run by the Walt Disney Archives. We had a lot of the people from the Walt Disney Archives helping us through this as guides on this. And one of the things we got to do was both hold one of Walt Disney's Oscars.
Right, an actual Oscar. So they had a lot of like display cases of replicas because some of these are at the Disney Family Museum in California. But they did have this one, and we were able to hold it and get some photos. And there was a photographer on board there who was taking a lot of videos and pictures. And he really felt like I do that Tom's smile really has a great quality to it. And he was making sure he got some concentrated photos to be able to, I don't know if it's for marketing or whatever, but really captured it.
I think I just lucked out on the height factor that, they would have taken pictures of Michelle because she's way cuter than me. But I happened to be, my head was closer to where Mickey was there. As you can see the difference in their reputation there.
I don't think it was that, but nice
anyway,
try.
That was a lot of fun. We've actually been able to hold that Oscar before, but that's a nice treat as part of it. Then we went into Walt's office, and yes, it's always amazing. We've been there before, but it still is emotional, fantastic, and just incredible to see. This is his sort of, it's kind of where he would greet guests.
Like
that
more
portion
formal.
of his office. Yeah, the formal office. Thank you, Michelle. That was the formal office that you see here. That has the piano and everything in it that you've seen many, many times, and all the pictures of his family and everything. And then you get to go next door to the working office. This is where things really, not that things didn't happen in the formal office, but this is where the work really got done in there. You could tell it's laid out and it looks like it. You can see, if you're looking on YouTube, you can see where like they have pictures of Disneyland, of the original designs of Epcot. Those were all there when unfortunately Walt left us back in 1966, but it's all in place. Very similar, if not almost exactly like it was when he was there.
Right. And a lot of in this this experience that maybe even more than the normal Burbank tour is one, they shared with us a lot of some of the books that Walt had and collected, and why some of the photos there, like why Ed Wynn is there and everything. So they gave a lot of more detailed history to that, why those were actually there, why Walt chose those. So it was really, like I said, above and beyond what we've normally gone through.
Right. And if you see that picture is of Disneyland over there. When you get the chance to visit it, because hopefully you will get a chance to visit at some point. If you're a Walt Disney fan, you should go visit this office and these studios sometime when you get to Southern California. But you can see this was when they were in the process of adding to Disneyland, and they had things where these attractions had just opened. These attractions were getting set to open over the next couple of years, and you can see some of the red and yellow kind of stickers there that were kind of showing which ones were in that process at that point. So really cool. So from there, well, it was off to our limousine for the day. We gathered up our stuff and we hopped aboard. This was our shuttle for the day that took us pretty much everywhere you want to go. Perfect space for 16 people and some guides.
Yeah,
well.
Yeah, very comfortable.
Yep, absolutely. Our first stop was to get this beautiful little cake. We got a little snack. Not that we didn't get enough breakfast, but we got this little cake. One thing they told us was that, a lot of the women early on were running the ink and paint department because they felt that they had the steadier hands and they could deal with it better than the men who would be a little bit too anxious. But they couldn't drink coffee, so they
weren't allowed to. Yes, they were allowed to drink tea.
They would drink tea, and they would get these tea cakes, and we were presented some of these tea cakes that are still being made today. They're from a bakery called Martino's Bakery. We got these tea cakes to have in there. What did you think of the tea cakes, Michelle?
I thought they were great. They were very sweet. I would have liked to have had some tea at that moment when they served it. But it just was amazing to think that company that was doing this for Walt and the staff, so many years ago is still in existence.
Yeah.
So that's very cool.
Yeah, really could have used some tea or some coffee with this cake, but it was good. It was good. I would totally with a cup of coffee.
Yeah,
one again.
Very moist.
Donna, yes. You've been to the office. Great. Yeah. And there's the kitchen too. I didn't take the pictures of the kitchen, but they do it. He did have a kitchen in there with it was like he had doors that would slide closed so he wouldn't show off necessarily. But when they wanted some food, he'd open it up and there was a full working kitchen.
One of the things they shared that I don't remember ever hearing before is that Walt liked V8, and he would often serve V8 to people who came to the office for meetings and stuff like that.
You had to either enjoy V8 or pretend to enjoy V8 when you were with Walt. Yes. So from there, we went to this beautiful campus over at Glendale. Our bus took us over to Glendale. One of the things to note, a lot of the Glendale buildings where this area is are owned by Disney, and they all have these numbers on it that look kind of like Disney name badges, right? Cast member name badges.
Yeah. So if you go down in that area, this is on Flower Street, and if you see an address with that kind of a logo, then Disney owns that building. Now they may not own every single one, but they do own a large portion of them.
You may recognize this number if
1401.
Several Disney attractions. 1401. That is because, yes, that is the address for the Imagineering campus. And this was another thing that we had never done before. We had never visited the Walt Disney Imagineering campus, and they couldn't have been more excited about it. And unfortunately, we were not able to take any pictures inside. No, they will not let no pictures inside for us. So we did not get to. But we can tell you a little bit of what we explored. And, we went into various different areas where they create the magic. We did see a mock-up, by the way. We were just passing by fast, but they have full models of many of these lands. Maybe you've seen some at events, maybe you haven't, but we were able to see a big model just passing by quickly of the Lion King themed land that's coming to Disneyland Paris. And oh, baby, it brought a tear to my eye. I know it's just a model, but if they pull that off in Disneyland Paris, it is going to be out of this world phenomenal, man.
Right. I mean, some people may have seen in the past, like the large model that they used to bring touring of Galaxy's Edge before that opened. And it was kind of like that. It's just this very large display showing you where everything is, and it really is amazing. That was so cool to be able to actually visualize that.
Yeah, it was really, really amazing. Donna, you had a question here. Did you go into the dish? I don't know if I know what the dish
Yeah, I
is,
don't know
Donna.
what
Maybe
the
you can
dish-
explain what the dish is, but apparently we didn't. It doesn't ring a bell with me. I'm sure we have at some point out there, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
One of the things, the other places we went in here is they do have various displays where they've kept things over the years. A lot of artwork, John Hench,
Mhm.
a lot of his artworks and his sculptures and things like that. They had a lot of displays of, I know that there's that one on Disney Plus that shows how they did It's a Small World and things like that as a mock-up. We actually saw a mock-up of Country Bear Jamboree, which was so adorable.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was cool. I mean, going to just the hallways alone, like there's a hallway that's a monorail hallway. Like you're going through it and it looks like you're going through a monorail and there's things passing by
Yeah,
the
there
windows.
it's got screens.
And they have like it's like artwork from the different Disney parks, and it's pretty incredible. We got to go into that room where there was a lot of the kind of the faces and mock-ups and different things about various characters that you'll find throughout the Disney parks, and you can pick out. You could sit in there all day and find new stuff. As soon as we walked in there, I broke into tears, which shouldn't surprise anybody. But I did because it's one of the most amazing things. I wish we could take a picture of it. We couldn't, but it's one of the most amazing things I ever see because it's all the faces of the animatronics that you love, all the variety of characters. She said the country bears. Yes, they're there. Muppets are there. Things going back to like America Sings out at Disneyland. I mean, all sorts of stuff, and they're all over the place. Different presidents' faces from the Hall of Presidents, and different things from like the American Adventure. You could see Ben Franklin there. It was amazing, and I could sit there, like I said, all day and just be picking out things.
Yeah, it's like going through a museum in essence of what what Imagineering has brought to life.
We also went into a sound studio, and they got a discussion of how they make sound and how they do things for different rides and different when they're trying to create things for ambiance, when they're trying to actually make sounds for rides and everything. And we did get to hear them. They put on a video of the various attractions that have just opened not that long ago out at Fantasy Springs out at Tokyo Disney Sea, and along with the audio to go with it. And the best audio you're ever going to hear, the best studio with speakers completely surrounding you. And it was incredible. And now I got to get to Tokyo Disney Sea because it was amazing.
It was. Although they use that same technology when they're coming up with any land, or like they said, even for the cruise ships and everything, and just how they have to be very creative in hiding that they need all of these speakers to, pull together and be synchronized to come up with the sound that you get to, whether you're really listening to it or if it's just subtle background.
Right. We also got to hear a discussion about Marty Sklar, who is kind of the king of Imagineering. He's known very well as the king of Imagineering, even though he wasn't the first Imagineer. He's kind of the guy that took it forward and was the head of Imagineering for so many years. And we got to hear a little bit about the Marty Sklar archives and see some pieces from that. And that was pretty amazing, including some letters he hand wrote to Walt Disney himself.
Yeah, talk about bringing a tear to your eye. Yeah, I mean, he's kind of one of the probably one of the closest people to Walt, in the sense of getting to know how Walt thought about things and envisioned things and how he communicated, and Marty helped with kind of bridge that with everybody else in terms of being able to capture Walt's essence, I should say. Yeah.
So after all that emotion and all that fun, it was time for a little bit of lunch. So they took us out through the campus, out the building, and there's a conference room kind of outside, big windows looking out. A lot of the Imagineers and the people that work there were just there enjoying. It was a beautiful day, absolutely spectacular day. We went in there. They had, it wasn't a special lunch, but it was sandwiches, salads, pretty good, pretty tasty. And we all just sat down and enjoyed a nice lunch. Did a little shopping at Mickey's at Glendale, maybe a little bit less than Michelle would have liked, but we did pick up a couple items there,
yes,
Michelle.
A lot less than I would have liked.
Yeah, I know. luckily we had been to Mickey's of Glendale kind of at Destination D23 where I had seen a lot of the stuff that they had there already.
Yeah.
But you still did have some finds, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, at Destination D23, I think they had about 35 to 45% of what that store contained. So they had a lot of other things. They had some wonderful things that I just thought, or I guess you thought might be a little too difficult to bring home in a suitcase. But kind of wanted to get some more of those things. But
Maybe we'll
it
get
was
back there someday.
amazing. It was
Maybe we'll get
amazing.
back there.
Yeah.
Also, we were joined at lunch by the head of Disney D23, Michael Vargo, who we always like to get a selfie with whenever we get the
Yep.
chance to see him because he's such a nice guy and such a great ambassador for Disney fans and in the Disney fan club
Right.
D23. By the way, Michelle mentioned a cameraman. You can see him in the back. He was pretty happy to see us taking this
Videoing
selfie,
us.
I think.
Getting a picture with Michael.
I believe his name was Nelson, if I'm not mistaken on there. And yes, we actually had to sign a waiver before this saying that they were going to be recording various things through video and through cameras because they didn't say specifically what they're going to do with it, but really believe it's probably going to be some sort of promotional video for when they do decide to start open this up to the public.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they never really had the camera person come up and interview anybody. He was just kind of taking very organic videos and pictures of what was going on. But he was with us all day. He was very fun, and he also got emotional, and he admitted there were some areas that he hadn't been to before, even though he is a cast member. He hadn't been exposed to some of the things that we got to see, and it was nice seeing that we were all in it together.
Yeah, he was fun. He was great. And yes, he did get emotional. He didn't film everything, but he filmed a lot. He was around a lot, filming a lot of different things, taking a lot of things. And he was a good port of that. So you never know when you might see us on a Disney advertisement sometime soon. See that pretty face.
Nah.
Anyway.
You'll see Tom for sure holding an Oscar.
So from there, we hopped on board our limousine again and went over to Griffith Park where they have Walt's Carolwood barn. So this was the barn where he used to stash all his, the trains in his Holmby Hills home. Easy for me to say. This was the barn that he actually had on that location where he would do a lot of work on his trains, get them all together. And they have since moved that to this location. The whole thing is kind of a big train museum now. This is a specialized area, but there's another area where they have some people that will actually give you tour or give you rides on trains similar to Walt's. And then there is another portion that is a rail museum that has like actual full-size train cars and engines and so forth that you can explore.
Yeah, so there's some like hobbyists that will help, support this by bringing their, replicas, etc. of trains. And it's really a very cool area to go visit. They also have on display there, if you're watching on YouTube now, is it's this yellow car that was one of the actual train cars at Disneyland on opening day until like I can't remember, it was 71, 72, something like that. So that actual train car is one that was at the opening of Disneyland. So that was very cool. And just to see, they also had some pictures and mock-ups of things that, Walt had been involved in. And it just really got you a little bit more knowledgeable about this passion, this, whether you call it a hobby or whatever, that he really loved and experienced.
Yeah. And you can see also in the pictures there, that car that's on the top left there, that is actually one of Walt's train cars there. We don't get to see the whole train there, but you do see that car there. But there's all sorts of interesting things, pictures, fascinating stuff to look at there. And by the way, we're going to point out some things. Yes, you can do this tour, but there are a few things you can do and not have to buy this enormous tour. One of the things you can do is go visit this, as a matter of fact. Michelle's getting some water. So you can visit this. I believe it's open it's like one Sunday every month. It's open there. And then there are also the train rides you can take around there as well with the train enthusiasts and of course the museum. But if you want to go visit this Carolwood barn, that is an option for you that outside of this tour. So if you are in LA or if you visit LA and you do want to do this, but you can't get the tour, you have your opportunity to do that as well, as Michelle returns with a little more water here. Yeah. So yeah, take advantage of some of these things that you can see if you get the opportunity to visit. We also, this is another place you can visit. We hopped on board the bus again. Unfortunately, we didn't get to see it up close. That's why you see it kind of from a distance here if you're watching on YouTube. We took a tour through Griffith Park on our way to our next destination, and we did go by the site. This is actually the merry-go-round that inspired Walt to build Disneyland. Now, it's going through refurbishment right now. It actually was going through a big deal, that they didn't know what they were going to do with it, if anything, for a while. But now it is officially going through refurbishment, and they're hoping to reopen it within the next couple years. But this was as close as we could get to it because, as you can see, it's all shut up. And it just isn't running. But at least we got to see that merry-go-round at this point.
Right. Yeah. I think they said they were trying to get it refurbished in time for the Olympics.
Yeah.
But it's right there in Griffith Park that, if you're a local and you get a chance to go see it sometime, and they have the park bench there and everything. So it's just to know you're in that area where this is something that inspired Walt to create Disneyland. It's just amazing.
Yeah. I would have loved to have been able to have it open, go on a ride on it, but unfortunately, just not right now. Yes, Donna, I'm glad it's coming back. It goes fast. I've heard that. That's what they were saying. It goes really fast.
Yes.
It goes really fast. It's one of the fastest merry-go-rounds that they were talking about. So interesting stuff.
And they were sharing, Becky Klein was telling us that a merry-go-round will have different animals and a carousel will just have like the horses.
Right. That's the difference. If you didn't know, and I didn't know the difference between a carousel and a merry-go-round. Yes, carousel, just horses, merry-go-round, variety of animals. So, by the way, yes, Michelle mentioned Becky Klein. I should have mentioned her beforehand. She's the head of the Walt Disney Archives. She joined us once we on this bus, and she was with us the whole rest of the day, giving us facts and interesting information. And she's just an amazing person.
Yeah.
She was just fun to be there with during this whole thing. Once we visited the carousel, we are off to our next destination, which is, and I'm going to make sure, I'm going to go check my book here to make sure I get it right. This is Uncle Robert's house, which happens to be on Kingswell Avenue. Another place you can go by. Don't go up to the house right now. Do not. But you can drive by here or walk by here and see this house on Kingswell Avenue in Los Angeles. Anyway, this house is the first place where Walt and Roy kind of went and crashed at Uncle Robert's house when they first moved to LA in the early 20s, Michelle.
Right. This was, as Tom mentioned, it's their uncle. So their father's brother. And you've probably heard that their father, he was a strong, heavy worker, good work ethics, but wasn't necessarily the most financially, secure individual. Whereas his brother did get into real estate in LA when it was in its early infancy and stuff. And he actually was doing pretty well off. And he did have this house and allowed for Walt and Roy to supposedly rent, although in an interview, he said he never remembered receiving a penny.
Right, of course. So we did get out here, and they told us we were going to get to go in this house. Now, the interesting thing about this house, well, many interesting things about this house, but one of the interesting things was that this house, for a while, was looking like it wasn't still going to exist. It was going through problems. It was going through proxy. Looks like it was going to be sold to a company that was going to knock it down, put up some apartments or some condos in this area, until people were like, whoa, wait a minute here. We cannot have this happen. So a bunch of people stood up, and Disney, in fact, came up with some facts, proved that this was a historical landmark. It is now a historical landmark, and they got a brand new buyer for it. And we were there out front getting ready to go inside. We were taking a picture out front, and who would walk out but the brand new buyer? Michelle, who is the brand new buyer of this house?
Walt Disney's granddaughter.
Joanna Miller, who is Walt Disney's granddaughter, daughter of Diane Disney and Ron Miller, who was the CEO of the Walt Disney Company for a few years. She now owns this house, and they're redoing it. So she came out and greeted us, and it was so sweet, and took a picture with us, took several pictures with us, took us into the house. led us on a tour. We could not take pictures inside another place, any place inside, any of the houses. We were not able to take pictures because they were, living places.
Yeah, these are people's homes. I mean,
Right.
she doesn't live there right now. She is still in the process of renovating it with her 2 sons, trying to get it to be very, period specific.
Mhm. Which is too bad that we couldn't get a picture or at least something of a certain moment of it, because we walked inside. She's leading us through a tour of the house. We're in the, go ahead, Michelle.
Well, I just wanna say she was very emotional also. I
Throughout
mean,
it.
everybody there felt like, this is a very special location. We just felt that, and having, Walt's actual granddaughter there with us, everybody was just, like, in awe of it, and she, in reciprocation, was feeling in awe that she felt like, "Wow, this is," something that she felt proud of, to try to be able to keep her grandfather, and she talked about she misses Grammy and Grandpa and everything,
Which
and
is funny that she would call her Grammy and
yeah,
Grandpa.
Grammy and Grandpa. But keeping their legacy, it was important to her.
Right.
And she reiterated how, what the world needs now is very much what Walt represents. And so she just felt kind of, I don't want to say the weight, but the responsibility of reflecting the history of her grandfather into this, what she's trying to recreate. So she too was very emotional that she had its audience who was very much appreciative of being able to tour this area.
Right. And they're doing a magnificent job of refurbishing this house. We were able to walk through a lot of the different rooms. It's an adorable house, for one thing.
Yes.
Classic house. But they've added all these different touches, little books here and there. They're wonderful little remembrances of Walt and the entire family. A lot of artwork, including cells going back to the Oswald days,
Mhm.
and so many great moments in Walt's life. And then we were in there in the living room / dining room areas, kind of combined
Mhm.
space there. And she's talking through it. And Becky Klein, again, head of the Walt Disney Archives, paused us for a moment and said, I wanted to show you this, talking to Joanna. This is, excuse me, let me get emotional. A copy of, it's not the actual contract, because she was like, I can't take this out anymore.
Yeah.
But is it a copy of the original contract that was signed by Walt, by Roy,
That started the company.
that started the Walt Disney Company? And she says this right there in this room. It was signed in this room on this day that we were in there 102 years ago. Joanna Miller, Walt Disney's granddaughter, started bawling. We all started
Everybody
bawling.
did.
It was an amazing moment. One of the most incredible things we've ever got to experience, to think about that we were standing in the room on the day that the Walt Disney Company signed, this company that we love, signed the contract 102 years ago. It was phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean, we knew that the date was, that we were doing this tour was the same day that the company contract had been signed, but we never really pieced together much more than that. We just thought, oh, okay, that's why they picked this day for us to do the tour. But for Becky Klein, like Tom said, to just kind of unfold that story, that it was right there in that room, in that house, that this was signed, was just so emotional for
Yeah.
everybody.
Even Becky got
Even Becky
emotional.
got
And she knew what she was doing there.
Yeah,
And I think
yeah.
when Joanna got emotional, like Becky totally got emotional.
Yeah,
about it.
yeah. So, and like she said, this is, one of the reasons why they were able to demonstrate to the county that it was a historic
Right.
site, because it was the foundation of when the company started.
Yeah.
And I believe Walt's uncle was one of the co-signers
Right.
to that
Yeah.
as well.
So pretty incredible visit. We did go out to the back, and this was out the front window. You can see that it's a landmark now. A city of Los Angeles is designated. We got to go back into and see the garage, which is where they technically started the studios. That's where they were doing the stuff there. Oh, and by the way, they're also refurbishing Walt's car. You see this Mercedes here, for those of you watching on YouTube, this red, beautiful Mercedes. They are refurbishing that, and that's there as well for you to check out. So someday I think they're going to open this up as a place where you might be able to get some tours.
Right.
It's not set yet. But eventually I think it seems what they're building this towards.
Right. Yeah. And that convertible was Walt's, although I think it was it in That Darn Cat? It was in,
yes, it was I think it was That Darn Cat.
It was in one of the
movies.
films.
It was at least that one, if not more than that one. But
Right,
yeah.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Pretty incredible. That whole thing, that that may have been the highlight of the
Yes.
day for
Yeah.
all of us.
Right.
In a day full of highlights, but that was
Yes.
pretty amazing. So pretty cool to see. From there, well, we walked back out and started heading towards the bus, and we looked across the street, and Becky Klein was like, "You see this? This is right across the street. This house across the street." Well, that was the second place Walt and Roy lived, right across the street. One thing where I'm going to tell you about this. I'm going to kind of take. Let me just take us out of here for. Everything was in a very short distance of one another as we were going. Everything was very close. So this is on the other side of Kingswell Avenue, right directly across. Walt and Roy lived in an apartment there after they moved out of Uncle Robert's house for a short time.
Right. Yeah. In that upper section. Yeah.
So from there, we went down the street, literally down the street of Kingswell Avenue, and stopped at where the actual Disney Brothers' first physical studio was, which is in this location. Another place you can visit, by the way. It's there on Kingswell Avenue. It's now a skate shop. Yeah. So, but they really, the skate shop embraces it. They have a lot of stuff from Walt there. You see, they have the Walt Disney Studios. They have the footprints there. They definitely tell you, like, this is where this all happened.
Right.
The pictures that are on the right there, those are actually in that skate shop. And they even have like a skateboard with like the
brothers.
Yeah, the brothers and some of the other original artists from the Disney Brothers Studios that you can buy it there. And they sell a lot of those. As a matter of fact, just for people to like hang on their walls.
Right.
Not even for people to necessarily skate on.
Right.
But yeah, really, really cool visit.
Yeah. When Walt and Roy were using that as their studios, they were renting a portion of a building that was actually a realtor's office. So that was that part of that building is where they had their office. So
yeah. So that's another place that if you want to go and not spend any money and go see some famous portions for Walt Disney, that's a place you can stop at and check out again. And they'll welcome you into the skate shop for sure.
Yeah, they're really nice.
For sure. From there, we went down an alleyway to about a block away. And then we saw the next place that Walt Disney lived, this apartment on the left. That was, I think, his first home with Lillian, his wife. They had an apartment in that blue building on the left.
Yeah, it was one of the corner ones, or the end ones.
Right.
Yeah.
We also passed by their actually first full home that Walt lived with Lillian.
Yeah, because Lillian wasn't very much, she came from farmland and everything where you had a lot of space. And so apartment living wasn't her favorite style of living.
So they actually built a house. It was it was just thinking of it as the IKEA of a house. It was a
Build-A-Bear house.
Yeah, it was buy it to order. You could order this house and build it yourself. And unfortunately, we don't have a good picture because we couldn't stop there. It was like major traffic there. It's a high school right by there. It was like pickup time when we were going through there. It's a very narrow street with a big bus and a lot of people. We couldn't get out. And we were unfortunately on the wrong side of the bus to get a good picture. But you can see the green garage door there. I wish I had a better picture of it. Let me see if I have a picture of it in this book here.
Yeah, but it was just amazing that they could actually build a house, and they each built a replica. So they each had a house that was the same as the other one.
So that's the house right there, the Lyric Avenue houses, for those of you watching on YouTube. So
that's another place you can stop by.
And you walk by there, drive by there. No, there's a school there, so be there at the right time of day because we ran into the traffic there. But it was interesting to see for sure. We then went by where the spot is where they used to have the Hyperion Studios. Remember we told you earlier that they moved those buildings away? Well, that's because that's now a strip mall. Yeah. So they handed us out these cards as we're driving through the strip mall, big grocery store, the strip mall. And so you can kind of try and get an idea of where these buildings were. So another place you can stop. You're not going to really get much from it,
right?
Unless you have one of these cards with you. But you can stop there and see where the Hyperion Studios originally were.
And so that was the studios just prior to Burbank. It's the studios where Snow White was actually created because it was from the money that they got from putting out Snow White and Snow White being successful that they were able to afford the Burbank studios.
Right. Those were the first studios that once once Mickey Mouse became successful, they were
Mhm.
able to build these larger studios.
Right.
We were able to pass by there. Again, it really wasn't much to see there, but it was cool to know that we were on the grounds
Yeah.
where the Hyperion Studios were. From there, well, this was a real treat as well. We went to the next Disney house. This house, which is the Woking Way House, or it's also known as Walt's Story or Disney Storybook Mansion.
Mhm.
It's way set up on the hillside, and it is a gorgeous, beautiful castle of a house. And interesting enough, we were our guide there, who is helping to refurbish it and
Mhm.
make it into what it is now. His name, by the way, is Dusty Sage, who you may know from Mice Chat. If you know
Mhm.
Mice Chat at all, he's the person that is kind of helping create this. Yes, Donna knew Dusty was our guide,
Yeah.
and he's amazing. He's
Yeah.
fantastic. Anyway, so this house, it was built a lot by Walt Disney's Imagineers. They kind of designed it, and they designed it in a lot of different styles. It's one part of it looks like a German castle, another part of it looks like a French country cottage. It is fascinating to go through and check it out. Also, they use forced perspective on it to make it look larger than what it is. Like the upper floors are small. It's just like the parks. The upper floors are smaller
Yes.
than the lower floors.
Yeah, it's
Which is
great.
interesting.
It is no longer owned by the Disney company. I don't know that Disney company ever owned it, but it's not within the Disney family. It's actually a film producer, a German film producer who owns it now. It was interesting because one, he did allow people to go through this house that he owns and he does live in. But that he felt a closeness with Walt and what Walt believed in. And even though he does like horror films, he felt Walt's life and love of life kind of gave balance to him. So I thought that was kind of cute.
Yeah, his name is I'm going to totally butcher it. He's a Russian kind of
Russian, yeah, sorry.
horror movie director. Timur Bekman Betov, I believe, somewhere along those lines. Anyway, he is the owner of that house, and he welcomes people in. It's his home. You can't take pictures inside just like
Right.
any place else, but you can tour it, and they have events there and all sorts of things. And by the way, we found out from Dusty that house is haunted.
Yeah.
So they do a lot of haunted houses tours there. Dusty told us himself, he's like, sometimes I'll be there staying upstairs and, I'll hear some noises and I'll see some shadows. And then, maybe I'll go into the maid's quarters and spend the night. And then sometimes it gets even a little bit more rambunctious. And he's like, you know what? And then I just go out and I sleep in my car, so if you like that kind of thing, there you go. There you go.
Now, one of the other unique things to this, well, there were several. One is that Walt really wanted to have a place for his, because he was just starting his family with Sharon and Diane, and he didn't want to be moving a lot like what he had been doing before, or his life, moving around a lot. So this was a home that they stayed in while the girls were little up until they were 18. So he really wanted to have that stability for them. If you watch on Disney Plus, there is a show called Walt and Christmas or something like that, Christmas with Walt, that Diane Disney had created with Don Hahn, I believe, this special, and they share some of their her childhood Christmases, and one of them shows about a dollhouse or kid's house for her and her sister that is out in the back, and that's this. If you watch on that special, I mean, on that show on Disney Plus, you'll see the inside and everything like that. They even had a telephone,
Which
and
during that time was a big deal.
yes, and they got it on Christmas Day, and Santa Claus called them to see if they liked it and everything, but they did love it. But anyways, that is there, and it's kind of built to look a little bit like Snow White's the cottage
The
that
Seven
with
Dwarfs house, yeah.
Seven Dwarfs house that where Snow White went to, and so it's still there, and it's just so darling.
Right. It's still there, as you can see the picture here of it. Apparently, from what Dusty, our guide, told us, he's like, I think it was a little of Walt. This came right after the success of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. And a lot of people were like, it's Disney's folly. There's no chance this thing is going to work. And then it did. It made huge box office numbers for the time. And this was kind of a celebration of his victory to build this cottage house for his daughters. And this was so much about his daughters. This house, he owned it from 1932 up till 1950. So basically, almost the entire childhood of his family, of his daughters, was there within this household. So many things came from that. It's fantastic.
Yeah, because I think the year after they moved out of here is when Diane married Ron Miller. So I mean, most of her life was there. Her and her sister, and I think one of the other things they pointed out about Snow White is the fact that people were very much associating Walt with Mickey and his antics, and they loved it and everything. And so going into that movie theater, their expectation was going to be something that was going to be maybe a little slapstick or a little comedic in that regards, and to have a full story was just amazing. And I think that also is like what they said contributed to becoming so successful. It's like this was real storytelling.
It's funny to hear Dusty break it down because he's like, you know what? Snow White's kind of a horror movie in many ways, and he starts breaking it down. All these moments, you're like, it's a very adult film. I mean, not adult film,
right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But it's very adult themed film for an animated picture, especially the first ever animated long action film. I mean, it's pretty incredible. But I never really thought about it.
Yeah.
I'm like,
yeah.
Right.
Your stepmother wants your heart in a box.
Right. And then there's Pinocchio. And Pinocchio, same thing. He goes through the whole thing. It's pretty interesting to talk about. But yeah, we got to sit there, and man, we had a gorgeous day. I mean, the view, you don't get views like this in Los Angeles very often. It had just rained the day before, so it had cleared out all that stuff that gets into LA, and you could see almost all the way to the ocean from his backyard. It was spectacular. We were so blessed to be up on this hillside, this beautiful view on this property that Walt walked for so many years with his family. Another thing that was a note, I think that was interesting from this house is that Dusty was talking about is like, you think about it, Diane Disney was the huge fan of Mary Poppins. The books showed her father the books, Mary Poppins. That's why, eventually, after working out a lot of troubles, they were able to finally get the rights and make Mary Poppins. Meanwhile, Sharon, the other daughter, was a huge fan of Winnie the Pooh, would read all the Winnie the Pooh books. And that's how Disney eventually got to purchase the rights, wanted to purchase the rights for his daughter. They were both, movies for his daughters, but purchased the rights and created Winnie the Pooh. And a lot of it was all done in this house. So this house is also, you can thank this house for those movies as well.
Right. Some of the other highlights of this house, one, you see a pool there. The pool was, yes, Donna, I was just going to talk about that. Thank you. The pool wasn't there when Walt was there. He did have a pool. He actually bought 5 acres, and it's kind of on a hillside, this sloped area. So there was another part of the grounds where they had the pool, and that pool still exists today, although they portioned off the 5 acres differently and sold that off to someone else. So they have a house and a pool, and this pool got put in later on. They do have a theater room in this house. Thank you, Donna. It's was put in there because it would be very difficult for Walt to try to go to the theaters or take his daughters to the theaters. People would be wanting to get his autograph or talk to him. So he
didn't exactly have Disney Plus at home.
Right. So they were able to obviously get films that were out in the, first runs out in the theaters, brought to their home and be able to watch it as a family. And it's very cool. We got to go in that room as well, and it's very awesome. And I could see where they would have a lot of fun movie night there.
Yeah, we got to see some amazing things at home. At home is beautiful. It's gorgeous. Fantastic. It was not Walt's last home in Los Angeles. We didn't get to see the Holmby Hills house. Right. That's the one that had the train and everything in the backyard and stuff. We didn't get to see that, but we did get to see this house, and it's beautiful, spectacular. They do have regular things going. You can join the Facebook group for the Disney Storybook Mansion or Walt Storybook Mansion, something along those lines. You can join the Facebook group, find out whenever they have events going on there. They were getting ready to hold some sort of Halloween events the
Right.
next night there
Yeah, in
as
fact,
well.
one of the people in the tour was
Was going to
gonna
go.
go
Yeah,
on that. Yeah,
that's
he had
right.
already reserved for it.
So
Yeah.
it is something you can do outside of this tour. You still do have to, you can't just go and show up there.
Right.
But they do other things that you can show up and visit this house as well, for sure. So from there, well, next it was time for dinner. It was time to go off to a very special restaurant, a restaurant that was very special in Walt's life and many, many other people in Walt's life. It's a restaurant that's in Los Angeles that Walt frequented. They say virtually every day. I don't know if
Yeah.
it was that frequent, but it was all the time. It's called the Tam O'Shanter. It's a more than 100-year-old restaurant in Los Angeles. Classic, really, really great place. If you like prime rib, if you like pub food, spectacular. And there is a table there that is Walt's table. And this was the spot they would say that he would sit down with his Imagineers and plot out things like the movies, like Disneyland, like so many other things.
Right. And actually, if you go to their website, you can reserve for, I think it's a 3-course or 4-course meal at that location, at that table. If you want to, you can do that, or just, being there, and you can see a lot of the artifacts that they have, that whether it be artwork or other little, like the plaque and things that they do have there that recognize Walt was a frequent person there.
Right. And you may see, you can see the table there on the right. You might see a little picture on the top there. That's this picture here for those of you seeing on YouTube. It is a picture of Mickey. It looks like he's got some bagpipes and a kilt on. They got the Tam O'Shanter there, or as they call it, the Tam.
Right.
And I guess it's still a favorite for a lot of Disney cast members to go and visit. Becky Klein was talking about how she goes there every year for her birthday and celebrates her birthday out there. It's a very popular place. Again, if you like prime rib was pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pretty good.
I believe that is artwork by John Hench.
Yes.
Also.
John Hench.
Yep. So
exactly.
that's the John Hench style Mickey. But yeah, where he recognized the restaurant.
Cool. So we sat down and we had a nice meal. Oh, and we were joined by somebody. We were all sitting down. We're all talking. We're like, winding down for the evening. Have a great time. Oh, by the way, we have a special guest joining you today. It's Brett Iwan, the voice of Mickey Mouse himself, who sat down and had dinner with us at the Tam O'Shanter. I didn't get a picture of him. I should have. I didn't want to bother him. He's eating dinner.
Right. And there were other people who are, part of the tour that was there. So we didn't want to have to take their, ask them if we could get them in the, out of the picture, it would have been disruptive.
One of the things that was fun about dinner was that during it, they asked us, because they kind of want to get our feeling on the tour, because this was wrapping it up. We had a nice meal. We had a 3-course meal, a salad, your entree, you had a choice of 4 entrees. We did the prime rib because he had to, and it was very good.
Yes.
And a dessert, and then beverages, non-alcoholic. We actually purchased a glass of wine on our own, but that was not included in the price.
Right.
It. So, so we sat down there and they asked us, what are your impressions on the day? And they went all around the table asking everybody,
every single
what
person.
was your favorite thing? What did you learn? You could decide on how you wanted to express yourself. And everybody was just raving about the tour. And it actually got some of the guides very emotional about it.
Yeah, I think one of the things to interject here is that we were from all over, so we came from Florida, although we were used to live in San Diego. There was another couple from Florida. There was some people from Michigan, Kansas, Tennessee,
Kentucky.
Oh, Kentucky. Yeah, thank you. And Tennessee. And then there were some locals, from Burbank.
Yeah. So from all over.
Yeah.
From all over, which was really cool. And everybody had different perspective. A lot of people mentioned the same moments that they love, Uncle Robert's house.
Yeah, because I think that was part of the question. What was the most impactful
the
part
ink
of
and paint department?
Yeah.
A lot of people love the same things. But everybody had a story to tell. And a lot of people had very similar stories to us of the whole 48 hours and can we make this work? And they're so happy they did.
And especially people coming from out of state that had just the same thing like we did. We had just gone. Now we were local for Destination D23, but some people had actually just,
traveled. May have
like from
had the whole Walt
Tennessee
Disney
or
World trip
Michigan,
around it.
right, for Destination D23. And then same kind of thing. Can we do it? Can we return, do another big trip?
Right.
Yeah.
So it was just a beautiful, beautiful night to cap it kind of off.
Yeah.
And, it was really nice, really warm, really wonderful. Everybody there was special. It was really, really fun. It was a really, really amazing tour. And also, remember that bag I told you about at the beginning of they said we're going to be basically trick-or-treating throughout this thing. Well, when we got done, we got to go through the bag of all the things we got. And here it is. For those of you on YouTube, this is all the stuff that we got throughout the day. It was a lot. It was a full bag. You can see the bag. You can kind of see in the corner. There's the folded up bag. But that is all the stuff we got. We were handing out so many stuff. There's like 4 pins. There's all these postcards. A Walt Disney quotes book, which, by the way, was signed by all these people from the Disney archives.
Okay.
Yes. So they sat down and they signed this for us. All these people from the Walt Disney archives, which was amazing. Oh, and if you go back and you see the card there, there's a little postcard at the bottom there. That's his Uncle Robert's house, which is, of course, as we mentioned, the house where the contract was first signed. Well, that was autographed by Joanna herself, thanking us for visiting Grandpa's home. Which was fantastic.
I know.
It just made me so happy. So
yeah.
Amazing that we walked away with all this stuff, which the memories were enough, but the stuff on top of it, and then the shopping, which again, I think Michelle will tell you, I'm not as big a shopper as she is, but Michelle will tell you that if there was something that they wish they'd done more of, was giving us just a little bit more time and a couple places to shop.
Well, especially when you have, just a small group and everybody's trying to buy things and check out, it made it tough to really, you're like, okay, I got to get in line now because I won't be able to make this purchase if I don't, kind of things. Really only giving us maybe like 15, 20 minutes, where I think it could have been given.
Could have been longer. It felt a little rushed. I agree. It did feel a little rushed.
Yeah. But part of it was, they were trying to keep a certain schedule and things like that. And I know it's going to be hard for them to try to replicate this. I mean, so sorry. We were a group this was a treat for us. We all got awarded this. None of us paid for it. Obviously we had to pay our own way.
For plane tickets.
Right. But none of us paid for the tour, and we were talking about that as a group, mingling and like, even with Becky Klein, they're saying, for some people who are going to be paying for this, in some regards, then you feel like, okay, they're a true fan because they're putting up that money. But on the other side, you might have people feeling like, I'm paying a lot of money for this. I expect a lot from this, and so it's going to be interesting to see what their experiences were. But they felt, excuse me, all in all, they just kept raving how great of a group we were. I think we were all just, like I said, all feeling so special. But even one of the tour guides said, I think it was Dusty, said, we were the best tour group he's ever had, touring, in terms of our interest, our respect, our how we all, went the right way. Nobody tried to, wander off or whatever. So
we're rule followers. We were a group of rule followers. No, it was fantastic. Everything about it. Yes. Again, this is going to be offered for price. It's probably going to be a lofty price for a tour like this. And I can't promise you that you're going to get all the things we got. Like, I can't promise you're going to be, in Uncle Robert's home the day that they signed the contract, and, Joanna Miller, Walt Disney's granddaughter, is going to be there at the same time and be emotional. I can't promise all that. I can't promise you that Brett Iwan is going to be enjoying you for dinner with this, but I can tell you what, even despite that, it's going to be an amazing tour if you go on it. One more thing before we start wrapping this up is I want to say thank you very much to all the amazing tour guides we have. I showed you, started the very unflattering picture of poor Drew and Christina over there. All these people and more were some of our amazing tour guides here. I don't know what Becky Klein's doing there on the bottom. I don't know why we took the picture. She's doing a little pirouette or something there. But all these people were some of our amazing tour guides within Walt's office, within the Imagineering campus, up at the Woking Way house, Disney Storybook Mansion.
Right.
All this, and many of them were, including Becky Klein and Drew and Christina, were with us all day, and some would show up at various different locations as
Yeah.
we'd visit them.
Laura Sanchez. I
Yes,
believe.
Laura Sanchez, which I didn't get a picture of her. She was phenomenal, and she was with us all day as well.
And she was the one that really helped, come up with getting the idea of
Mhm.
this tour. She
And
was
worked with
tasked to do
Becky
that.
and-
Yes.
yeah.
And came up with the content creation for
But
this.
we can't thank them enough
Yeah.
for how they treated us, how amazing this whole experience was. We thanked them that day. We thanked everybody who had any part in it, whether we met them or whether we didn't that day, because it was phenomenal. And I will go on thanking them because they were, as always with cast members, and it goes with all these guides, they make the magic. The magic is there, but they unfold it, they unveil it for us, and they helped make this be a very special day once again.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the big takeaways is they really humanized Walt and shared, I mean, here we're telling you we went here, this happened. But I mean, during this tour, they were sharing stories with us about Walt, about Roy. And again, it brought to light the real true human factors that were part of this company's history, and it just amazed me. And one of the other things that was interesting, and I believe Drew was the one who was telling us, when they give tours of the Burbank studios, he says almost every tour somebody will say, wait, there really was a Walt Disney. They thought it was just a brand, just a name given to
Like
this
Betty Crocker or something.
Right. Yeah. That some people just were not even aware that there was a true Walt Disney.
Yeah. And your point is really good, Michelle, because I think we all took away from this the fact that, because you think of Walt and we see him, on, World of Color or the Disneyland show, or we see videos of him or photos of him. And you think, okay, he's this big guy who owns the studio that thought up all this stuff. You don't really think about how he had very humble beginnings, and you could see it by the fact that he had to crash at his uncle's house and then go to an apartment across the street and live in these smaller places before he eventually got to something like the Storybook Mansion, or and some of these other things. Like, he lived a real life. Like, he's a real human being that had to go through his struggles, that went bankrupt, a couple of times, nearly went bankrupt several more times. And a lot of that was showcased on this tour. And so that is also amazing as well, to think about all of that.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was just a really incredible experience. Now, one of the things I know we talked to, when we're doing some promotions for this show, is hearing about some of if you have some experiences of, walking in Walt's footsteps or seeing some things, we'd love to hear about your experiences as well. So if anybody out there in the chat want to share, we'd love to hear.
Feel free to chime in. Absolutely. Absolutely. Marianne, you're very welcome. It was very special to us.
Yes.
We knew we were on something very special, and we were happy to share it with you. I tried to share, even to Michelle's annoyance at times. I think I was trying to share as much social media wise that day.
I was glad you were doing it, because then I could just sit back and have fun.
That's true. But there's only so much we could do on that day. But we knew, like, this was something special, and we were very, very. That's why we're doing this live show. We were very, very excited to tell you all about it at length, because we're gone way long here, but not surprising for us because we like to talk. But there was a lot to pack in here. So, I hope you get your chance to do this. Again, I don't think it's going to be cheap. It's not going to be a cheap tour. Just to tour the Walt Disney Studios in Burbank isn't necessarily cheap. It's worth it, but not necessarily cheap. This is that, and then with meals and everything else. Marianne, you just did. I saw that you just got to do the Kingdom tour.
Hey,
that's really cool. We've done the Keys to the Kingdom. It's amazing.
Awesome.
We've done it.
It's one of our favorites.
Yeah, it's one of our favorite tours. I'm glad you got to do that, Marianne, for sure.
Yeah.
You will have your opportunity, I think, at some point. Now, again, I don't know if they're going to do groups of 16 again or what, and they're going to be only limited to a couple times a year, maybe 4 times a year is what it sounds like. We'll wait and see on that. So it's going to be tough to get on. But if you get the opportunity and you can afford it, highly recommend it. It's going to, if you are a Walt Disney fan, it's going to give you so much amazing insight into his life. And I think you'll you'll come away from with it with an impact, from sure.
Yeah, a lot more appreciation.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Absolutely, absolutely. So from there, we spent some time with some family, but then, yes, it was time to head home. Sad trip home, but
Mhm.
what an amazing experience that was, and just feel so blessed. So we don't win anything. I'm so blessed to win something like, well,
Yeah.
Michelle. Thanks to Michelle, lucky Michelle, that we won that. So, and we're happy that we were able to share that with you.
Yeah, yeah. So we didn't want this to be like one of these. Oh, we're bragging about this. We just want to share, what's out there. Like we said, there are some places you can go along and see whether or not you can go in. Obviously, that's without a tour may not be as feasible. But still, if you're in the area, why not go check out those spots?
Yeah. If you have any questions about them, we'll help. I can't say that we were luckily we chauffeured there, so I'm trying to figure it out on a map of LA. I can try and help a little bit, but we can kind of remind you of some spots. If you're thinking about going up there and want to hit some of those spots up outside of the tour, we could help remind you of where some of those locations are, so you
Right.
might be able to check them out for yourself. Again, remember, a lot of people are living in some of these spots, so be kind if you do go visit them. Don't linger around too much. Pass by, walk by, take a quick picture or whatever. Some of these places are used to that, but don't just loiter and
Yeah.
expect knock on the door or anything.
Another opportunity where you can see some of these is through the Adventures by Disney in the LA area. They do have some of these locations that they do take people who are taking the multi-day tour
Right.
an ability to
Yeah.
see some.
And you can eat at the Tam O'Shanter, or the Tam as they call it,
Yeah.
anytime you want, and it's pretty good.
Mhm.
I highly recommend it. It's really fun. I think we'll go back there sometime.
Yeah,
For sure,
absolutely.
just on our own. Absolutely. So that's going to wrap it up, everybody. Thank you. Thank you for joining us on this live show. We really appreciate it. If you have any questions, anything else, please hit us up. Gmail account, hit us up on social media. We'll be happy to help and answer any questions you can, and really appreciate you being here. And so now we move on and have the rest of our evening. Thanks for coming, everybody, on this journey through Walt's Los Angeles tour. Appreciate you.
Bye.
Bye.